Come on in, stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. You might be watching us on DBTV, which is a national and international cable network that's a first of its kind. And I am thrilled and honored to share with you on that network. The Coach Scott Field Show can be seen in over 300 million households around the globe. You could be seeing us on CSTV or the Rewind Sports 60 networks and channels. Thank you for choosing us for your viewership options. I am beyond grateful. If you're listening to us in podcast form, my guest, Everest Romney, and I say, turn that knob up. We're about to put some flavor in your ear. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. And for all those wonderful algorithms out there, please like and follow the Coach Scott Field Show on Facebook, and also smash and subscribe to that YouTube channel for amazing content with amazing guests. And today is no different. I am honored and thrilled and humbled to share with you today my guest, Mr. Everest Romney. Everest and I have something in common that you're going to learn during this interview, but just an outstanding young man who has an incredible story and journey to share with you as he showcases his skills and talents for the top recruiters around the nation. Everest Romney, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very much, Scott. It's great to see you again. I'm thrilled to be on this show. I'm super excited.
We're going to have a great time. And so kind of share with the viewers and listeners today, just introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about you, your background. Of course, if they saw you stand, there'd be no question that you are a basketball player. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Of course. So I'm Everest Romney. I'm 6'9", and I play a lot of basketball. I like to read too, some basic stuff. Yeah.
That's right. And
Yeah.
you're at a very successful program here in the state of Utah,
I am
Corner
Corner Canyon High
Canyon.
School.
That's right. And you guys were state finalists last year.
Yeah, we were. We went against American Fork. Unfortunately we lost in the finals, but we did go all the way to the finals. So that was
And
fun.
and one of the larger classifications in the state.
That's right, 6A. Yeah.
Yeah, so you play against all the big boys in one of the best regions in the state of Utah.
That we do, yeah.
Well, Everest, let's talk a little bit about how you and I became acquainted. I was actually watching television late one afternoon, and I learned of this athlete in the area that is a phenomenally skilled young man, hardworking young man, an unbelievable academic career. Uh, and you actually took a vaccine, the COVID
I did.
vaccine, which
I
caused
did.
your immune system to go awry, which
Mhm.
I did at the age of 18 to accept my
That's right.
scholarship in the state of North Carolina. But let's talk about, first of all, your academics at Corner Canyon, because you're a phenomenally gifted young man when it comes to intelligence. What is that GPA right now?
Well, currently it's at a 3.839. I do my very best. It was real tough when I had my unfortunate bout with the illness vaccine that I had, not illness, but the vaccine reaction. And it took a little bit of a dip from a 4.0, but we're hoping to get it maybe up there back
Uh,
to like 3.95 or something like that.
no doubt in my mind. So, without a doubt, you could obviously receive academic scholarships, but your passion and love is the game of basketball, correct?
That's right. I love basketball. It's my whole entire life. Been playing it since I was 4. So
Yes. So
wonderful experience.
let's talk about you and your travel team and playing basketball, and how were you doing prior to the vaccine?
Oh, I was doing fantastic. I went up to a tournament in Arizona, which is starting to where I started to notice, the ill effects of what would happen. I had a throbbing pain in my neck and in my head, but I managed to score the most out of my whole entire team, and they put me on a reel, and it was real fun. It was don't think it was Section 7. It was a little before that, but it was a fantastic tournament. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It was cool.
which gains a lot of exposure. And but give us about the dates. I mean, so this was what, couple years ago, right? In the summer,
Yeah, it was in the summer. It was early summer from what I recall. So we were doing a tournament in Arizona. Oh, it's gonna be hard for me to remember the dates. I should have pulled them
right?
up beforehand. But
Well, that's okay. But you were doing well, and your family
mhm,
was kind of concerned. Maybe there would be some travel restrictions. So of course you opted to take the COVID
I
vaccine.
did.
And so when you took that vaccine, let's go to that day. Do you remember receiving the vaccine? And did you have any effects immediately of that vaccine?
Well, absolutely. I remember the day. I didn't have any immediate effects. It was probably a few days afterwards. And all props to my mom. I mean, the doctors, when I came in, they said that if that hadn't come in right, then it probably wouldn't have made it out at all. Not a lot of times do you get to catch this sort of a thing before it becomes, terminal. So I was awful lucky. And all props to my mom who forced me into the hospital because I had another tournament coming up and I'm like, Mom, I don't think I can go I don't think I have time. And she's like, Everest, I got to take you. You're looking
Yeah.
pretty sick, bud. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you get the vaccine. And again, what I want the viewers to know, this is nothing political. This is just a young
No.
man who had an adverse reaction to a vaccine. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that reaction was. So
Yeah.
it's in the summer, you're preparing, you just finished with one tournament, you've got another tournament coming up. They're starting to feel some pressure because it's like, hey, I may not be able to play with the travel team. I may need to get this vaccine. You guys choose to get the vaccine. Your father also gets the vaccine.
He
And,
did.
and
Yeah.
your father also had a little bit of a reaction with the vaccine as well, correct?
That he did. Yeah, he did. He developed, I think, somewhere around 50 blood. They were little, they were
Yeah.
smaller, but he developed something like 50 blood clots in he lost a quarter of his left lung to him. So
Yeah.
we woke up early one morning and he just see an ambulance outside. I'm like, what in the world is happening? But yeah,
Wow.
that's what
And
happened.
of course, he's doing much better now. Does he have any
He's
side
much
effects
better.
now?
He's not going to run any marathons. Not that he was going
Yeah.
to before, but
Yeah.
yeah, he'll
So
be
losing
okay. He's good.
losing a quarter of the lobe because of blood clots being lodged in the lung, and so the safest
So
thing to do is remove the quarter of the lobe.
So the lung had been, I believe, you might have to double check, but I believe what had happened was he developed the blood clots around the same time because he and I got the shot at the same time. But because mine were in the brain, they manifested sooner. So
Yeah.
his blood clots just kept, and then it eventually, I believe, suffocated the part of the lung and it had died. So they
Oh,
were able to save part of that lung. Part of the lung wasn't able to be saved, but he was coughing up quite a lot
yeah, yeah.
right
So just
after. It was real
uncomfortable,
tough.
shortness of breath, and just not
Yeah.
feeling well. And yeah, so the best decision was to move a quarter of that lung. You have
Yeah.
the vaccine. Take us through some of the early onset side effects that you felt. What were you feeling? What was going on within your body that you can remember?
Oh, well, the very earliest symptom was, of course, a terrible, terrible headache. I remember specifically because this is back when it wasn't quite, I was playing it after it kind of died, but I was playing Minecraft, which is
Yeah.
pretty funny. And I remember just this horrible headache. It was right through here on my left side. It was very localized to that left side of the head. And I was like, wow, that's pretty bad. And it kind of started pulsing. I also or no, I'm sorry, hang on. No, this came first. So I
Okay.
had a swollen, it looked like a swollen lymph node. You could feel it. It
Ah.
was quite large. And that was the first symptom. And then after that, the headache started. So it was first this because the initial clot was in um, it was in one of the main blood vessels up here, and then it consequently, I believe, created two more clots up in the brain. So,
Oh my goodness.
so
So
yeah,
so obviously there was the severe headaches like a migraine headache,
yeah,
probably
they were
some
horrible.
dizziness. Was your vision
Mhm.
affected at all?
I was starting to go blind. In fact, a lot of people thought I had gone blind. I had quite a lot of texts in the hospital asking if I had gone blind. I was like, not yet. I'm hoping not. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what's going through your mind when you're starting to have these horrible headaches and you're losing focus and you're dizzy, you're lightheaded. What were you feeling at that time if you can remember?
Well, I remember that it was just so intense that you really only thought of the symptoms in a way to alleviate those symptoms. So the headaches, they didn't go away. They were constant. They were always a part of every day for the next 7 days until I went to the hospital. Amazing that I lived through that. But like they were just constant, they were pounding, and it was horrible, horrible, horrible. And yeah, it was really just any way to alleviate the headache pain. It
Yeah.
was like I would hold my breath, I would try
Oh,
ice, I would just whole lot of nothing that helped. And yeah,
yeah, right. So now was just after the first vaccine, or was this like the second vaccine, a booster, or
so this was the first vaccine. It was so what I have heard happened to me and my dad's body is that we had the illness before and we had developed antibodies, and then when we had the shot, it reacted and made even more antibodies. So we had a antibody test shortly after I got it. Well, not that shortly, about a month after I'd gotten out of the hospital, and my antibodies were in the region of 10 times more than someone with the two doses of the vaccine. So it was 10 times higher. So
wow.
that had just created like this just massive, from what I heard, just a real thick blood, and it just caused all sorts of problems for me.
Right. So you have the vaccine.
Mhm.
Approximately how many days later before you first felt, what was felt like the lymph node in the neck?
I think it was 4 days. I believe it was around 4 days, maybe two. The lymph node really that was really the first thing that happened. And
Yeah.
from what I'm aware, like that was that lymph node that was the first clot. So it was probably 4 days or something after 2 to 4 days. It wasn't too long after that.
Yeah,
So
right, right. And
yeah.
so then the headaches became very
Mhm.
severe. You're obviously, sharing with your family, you're not feeling well. Are you nauseated? Are you dizzy? Are you kind of throwing up? Or is it just like the worst migraine that you can imagine?
Well, it was absolutely the worst headache I've ever had. I've had migraines before, but this is no contest. This is absolutely
Yeah,
the worst. And I
right.
started having blurry vision, and I started not being able to see very far. And I was just like, this is so weird. And
Yeah,
yeah, I was getting dizzy. No nausea. That
yeah.
wasn't an. I know that some people have experienced nausea with this sort of a thing in their brain. I didn't experience nausea, but all those other weird symptoms I did, and I had to take lots and
Yeah.
lots of different medications to help. But
And of course, your family, your parents are very concerned for you. You're having these
right.
horrible headaches, which you are thinking are migraines. You can't put your finger on it. They obviously get you to the doctor or the hospital. Do you remember which vaccine that you took?
I I do believe it was the Pfizer vaccine. I believe they were only allowing Pfizer in my age group at that time.
Yeah,
So
gotcha.
at that actually huh, I have my dad's COVID vaccination card right here. Yeah.
There you
He
go.
took he took the Moderna. I had the Pfizer vaccine.
Right. And
So
so when
it
you
was
took
those
the
two.
vaccine, you are what, a junior in high school, are going to
I
be a
was at
junior.
I was going to be a junior. I was at time a sophomore going into junior. Yeah.
Right. So 17 years old, I believe.
Yeah, roughly about 17 years old. Yeah, 16 or
R-
17.
Right.
Yeah, 17.
And so your family, out of
Mhm.
concern for you for these horrible headaches and blurred vision, uh, they take you to the doctor. And can you remember kind of like the sequence of doctors? I mean, how many doctors did you
Yeah.
see? How many visits did you take? Did they put you in the hospital right away? And kind of take us chronologically through that progression, because I mean, it was a scary time for you.
Yeah. So the first doctor that I went to was a general practitioner, and he believed that it was a neck strain. So so
Yeah.
he put me in this brace, and it was just awful. I was like, this isn't working. And he was like, well, you're not you're absolutely going to be fine. And I was like, are you sure? Because there's really a problem. So my mom, she's just the most amazing. She
Yeah.
was like, no, we're gonna get this. We got an MRI on it, and it still didn't show anything. He was like, it's probably an infection. I'm going to give you antibiotics. So we went home with the antibiotics. The headaches got worse. I went to the ER. They gave me a shot in my lower back, and that was meant to alleviate some of the pain. It did nothing. It was no medication worked. We had all sorts of migraine medications. It was interesting. Tylenol maybe was the best working out of every single medication, and it didn't
Wow.
help a lot, but it did help a little bit.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, Mom, I don't know. And she's like, you're gonna have to go to the hospital. And I was like, I don't know if I can. And she's like, you're going. So we went to our nearby hospital, and they did a scan, and they're like, you have a lot of blood clots. You've got 3 blood clots. You've got 2 blood clots in your brain, and then we're gonna scan the rest of your body to make sure you haven't got more. And then what I do remember is that before they transferred me, they put a cocktail into my body. It was like, it was just a mixture of medications, but the drip was going too fast. So I just got this horrible, it was like wanting to crawl out of my skin. Just the
Oh,
worst like week of my life. Like it was no fun. I grabbed my mom, like, Mom, something's wrong. This isn't feeling good. So yeah, just absolutely miserable. And
oh my goodness.
I was in the doctor's office, like, please don't let this just be pain. Please don't let this just be a neck injury. And now I really just wish it was, because so much time lost and
Yes,
so much of everything.
right. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Everest Romney, who is currently a senior at Corner Canyons High School, a phenomenal student athlete, who has dreams and aspirations of a college basketball scholarship. He's had the vaccine. He and his father both had an adverse reaction to the vaccine. They gave you a shot, they put you in a neck brace. After the family practitioner puts you in the neck brace, and you and your family are realizing, hey, this is not the secret. Your family obviously takes you to a different set of doctors and takes you to the hospital. What were the doctors saying about the neck brace, and what could the neck brace have done?
Oh, so this was interesting. It could have, it very possibly caused the second clot in the brain. So we had the first clot, and that was there, and then the neck brace might have jostled around this one to throw another clot, or something to that effect. So
Oh,
they believed that it was possibly, it could have been the cause of the second one. Of course, I already had horribly thick blood. It was possible that it would have thrown one anyway, but it
oh.
was possible that
So
neck
it,
brace
it
had
may have compounded the issue, which caused more
it
blood
did, yeah,
clots
it
and
probably did.
worse headaches.
Yeah, and maybe it didn't cause more. Maybe what it did was enlarge it because of the blockage of blood flow, because it was quite
Yes.
close. It was quite,
Right. So there's
yeah,
less circulation with the neck brace on,
yeah,
and the way you had to hold your head, and you're telling them,
that's
hey,
right.
this is not working. And so how long after you were getting the injection in the spine and the neck brace was removed, how long before you and your family said, you know what? Mama Bear is in panic mode. Let's get our son Everest back to the doctor. This isn't working. I'm seeing a decline. But what was happening with you with your cognitive approach and then also your motor skills during that time?
Wow. Yeah, it was crazy. So my neck for pretty much that entire experience, I couldn't move it from here. So my head was pretty much 24/7 here in this juxtaposed juxtaposition. It was just totally sideways the whole time. And my parents started to notice, like, he's not responding how he should. I wasn't making the proper reactions, and
Yeah,
just
no progress at
things were
all.
off. Things were off. Things were going weird for me, and they just couldn't understand why I was acting differently, and why I couldn't comprehend some pretty basic arithmetic too. I had to take a math test, right, and it was absolutely miserable. But I had to take a math test, and it was like 3 days before the final hospital visit, and I just was like, I can't do it. I don't know what's wrong, but it's like I can't understand at all what was in front of me. It was like reading Arabic, which
Right.
obviously I don't read Arabic. I just couldn't
Yeah,
understand it
right.
at all.
Great analogy. Great analogy. So when you're going through this testing and you know the brace isn't working and you know the injection in the spine wasn't alleviating anything and it made you feel worse, what was going through your mind mentally? Because obviously you're starting to have a little anxiety. You're worried about these headaches. You're not able to lift your head. Your mom is probably seeing you slowly physically deteriorate because your motor skills were worsening. So
Yeah.
take us through. that little timeline. I mean, was it 2 or 3 days, or did it happen quicker than that before you were rushed into the hospital where they gave you the scan and then identified that it was blood clots in the brain?
So the final night that I remember, much of this was blurred, right?
Yeah.
I have very fuzzy because it was very difficult. I didn't have the mental capacity at that point. I remember just not responding at all properly to the examiner's questions, to the point where they thought I actually had a stroke, and I had like something like 20, 15 doctors in the room, and they were all running around. I was like, wow, this is crazy. But I couldn't remember some basic things, like even how old. It was super weird. Like I imagine it would be similar to having woken up from anesthesia, where it was just like you don't really understand what's going on. You're very
Yeah.
confused, and you
Cloudy.
just want things to be morning. Yeah, you're very confused, and it was just pretty much that right up until like halfway through the hospital. It was, and I stopped eating too. It was just pretty miserable experience. Yeah.
Right. So here you are, you're in the hospital, you have
Mhm.
15 to 20 doctors surrounding your bed. Are you nervous at that juncture? Are you scared? Or are you just wanting answers? I'm sure your mom and dad are advocating for you, going, what's going on to my son? Can you remember kind of that step through the process where they're trying to identify the blood clots and what could have caused it? Or what do you remember about that process?
I remember just all throughout that process. Props to my dad too, because he was going through a similar thing with his lung, and all he was concerned about was me. It was wonderful. I
Yeah.
remember actually, we had a moment where there was a couch, right? Or there was a basic kind of chair, and it
Yep.
was right next to my hospital bed. And my parents would switch the nights each time, and the chair
Oh,
wouldn't recline. So
yep.
he sat slumped there, and I actually took a picture of it. It was pretty funny. And then in the morning, he's like, "Oh, I've got this horrible pain in my back." And then I lean over, and I was like, "What's this?" And I pull this lever, and the seat folds back, and he goes, "Oh."
So
So
let's
bad.
describe your dad. How tall is your dad?
He's 6'9". He's same height I am, and he's
So
scrunched
so
into this
six
little
foot
chair.
nine,
Yeah,
fitting in this little chair next to the hospital
exactly.
bed as you sit
Yeah,
there and suffer. Yeah.
yeah. It was pretty funny, but yeah, I just remember my parents were all just running around. My mom has some medical experience. She was doing great. Again, she was the only reason I was there at all. I would
Yep.
not have survived without her. Any other person, and I don't think I would have made it. So
Yeah.
just amazing. And like how I was feeling, it was almost like being a child where you just don't really understand even what's going on. I remember vaguely my grandpa came in and gave me a CD of computer programming, and
Oh,
I was like, I'm not going to understand that at all. But I was like, thank you, that's fantastic. And that was real nice. And I just remember being just totally confused, and I wasn't worried or anything. It was just more of concern for, like, you're not really concerned for you, but you're concerned for the others of how they might. It's less of a, you're not really worried about you, but you're worried about how others might react to it. Does that make
wow.
sense?
It does. It does. Well, it just shows the high character person that you are. You're sitting there in bed, you're suffering, and you're more concerned, how's my dad who is also suffering because he's over here in this chair looking out for me. Your mom is advocating for you feverishly, trying to get answers, and she's getting frustrated because she's not getting answers because she can look over and see her son, who she knows better than anybody, and sees that you're not responding to injections and to treatments. And, you're, like you say, you're cognitively not able to recall certain things. You
Yeah,
are like coming out of this foggy coma because of this reaction to this vaccine.
yeah.
Wow.
It
Well,
was
you just,
just crazy.
you have, I'm going to tell this to the viewers and listeners. You have an amazing family. Your support system is phenomenal. I mean, you are a successful young man who has gone from being at a, basketball showcase, being one of the top players on your team, to now not being able to function or remember certain cognitive things with any kind of short term or long term recall. And yet you're feeling for others because you're worried about them, but yet your motor skills are also starting to decline now as well, correct?
Yeah, they were absolutely crazy. For a while, I couldn't remember how to shoot. It was just the weirdest thing. I had just I had lost so much. It was, I was taking a certain medication that would lower spinal fluid,
Yeah.
because it was I had lots of swelling behind my eyes, and they almost put a shunt in, which is a
Oh,
thing where it relieves pressure by flushing some spinal fluid out into your, I believe, stomach. It might be where that flushes to, but the point is it gets it out of the brain and puts it down lower into your body, where it's not as causing as much pressure on your
right,
head. So yeah, it was
right.
just,
And
yeah.
I remember seeing a short news story on a local news channel out here in Salt Lake City, and it was later in the evening. I just happened to be home, and to me, it was almost an act of God, because I usually don't even watch TV or even have the TV on, but for some reason I had the TV on. I didn't really watch a lot of news at the time, but yet I heard this story of a local standout athlete who was in the hospital and suffering. And they said, was it the cause of a vaccine? And I can remember sharing the story with my wife that night. And I said, I feel compelled to reach out to the family, because when I was 18 years old, I actually took an oral polio vaccine that gave me an adverse reaction, that I went from being a high school Hall of Fame player to being bedfast for 9 months. And I told my wife, he goes to Corner Canyon High School. And I remember my wife, she called a friend who was a client of hers. And so this gal put me in contact with your mother. Now you don't know this
That's
part,
right.
but I was sending texts to your mom, and I was introducing myself, because I didn't want to sound like just some stranger, but I was very concerned, and I wanted to meet you because we had something in common, and I wanted to share with you that, I wanted to be there for support for you. And I can't thank this friend of ours who put us in contact with you. And then finally your mom responded back. Of course, it wasn't immediately, because I'm sure she was getting flooded with hundreds of texts and calls, and she's worrying about you being in the hospital. But then I did hear from your mom, and I was grateful. And I was just trying to get updates from you. You were still in the hospital at the time. um, and matter of fact, you were having trouble, having any kind of focus at all, with
Oh,
any
it was,
mental
yeah.
clarity. Yeah, and your vision was horrible. And I mean, unless they were right directly in front of you,
Yeah,
close,
you had to be
you
right in
weren't.
front of me.
Yeah, you weren't able to focus. And I think that this relationship and texting with your mom went on for a couple weeks, and you were finally released from the hospital. But during that time you were in the hospital, what types of prognosis were they giving you and your family about what your recovery could be? Was this terminal? What was the percentage that you would even be able to play basketball again? So I mean, let's take the viewers through that roller coaster of some of the highs and lows of diagnoses, how many medications you were on, how long you were in the hospital. And I know I'm hitting you with a lot, but take us through that step, because to me, it's phenomenal and it's fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, first things first, I want to tell you about my mom. So, my mom, she actually told me that you were trying to reach out, and she would sometimes tell me when someone was trying to reach out. Sometimes, and she asked me if I wanted to talk to this guy Scott, and I was like, he sounds really familiar to me, and he sounds really similar, and I think it would be very very comforting if I could. So that time in the hospital, that period of time where it took her to respond, it was because she was trying to accentuate a response from me, and I was like, yes, I would
Right.
love
Oh,
to.
I
So
don't blame her. I don't blame her. I
yeah.
mean, what a wonderful mom, because like I'm saying, one of the best families that I know. So the support system is there. I'm grateful for your mom, but I'm glad, you were able to respond. But again, I just keep thinking, I mean, some of those diagnoses that they were giving you were not very favorable.
No, they weren't. So the very first night that I came in, we heard a 94% chance of death. So that wasn't a
Oh,
very good chance at all. So we had loads and loads and loads of doctors, and I was getting pumped full of just a blood thinner, and they were talking about maybe they didn't think it was favorable, but they thought maybe trying to remove it might be more favorable than trying to let the blood thinners take it out. But of course, then I'd have to be off of the blood thinners for a period of time, because if you don't have blood thinner, if you have blood thinners in your body, then you bleed out, right? So you make an incision and you bleed out. So it was either one or the other, and I had a higher chance ultimately of surviving on the blood thinners. So at first I had 3 IV fluids in me. I don't remember what they were all for. One was for a blood thinner, and then the other 2 were something else. But the blood thinner, I remember they had to have a specific IV for it, because apparently it makes your veins all oily on the inside. So it was messing with the other medications they gave me.
Wow.
When I went home from the hospital, they gave me, I can remember specifically 2 medications. I believe there were more, but I was given Diamox, which is to alleviate brain swelling, and that just caused all sorts of issues. I hated that drug. I was always dizzy. I couldn't run around. It was terrible. And I was put on a blood thinner, an oral blood thinner, which was really pretty awesome, because most of them are injections, and you usually have to inject those every day, but I didn't have to do that. It was called Rivaroxaban from what I remember. And that was the oral blood thinner. And I couldn't play basketball. It was terrible. I couldn't play basketball for such a long time, at least. At first it was because my body just couldn't play basketball, and then it was because I couldn't play basketball with physical contact because of the blood thinners, because if I got hit in the head, things might go really poorly. So
Right.
it
Quickly.
was just
Right.
absolute torture. Yeah, I had to
Wow.
sit through practices watching, and then I just knew that I couldn't play, and it wasn't any fun at all. But I
I,
got it through it, and I got to play again.
Well, I think of the pressure of each of these decisions that you and your family had to make, because 94% chance of not even surviving. So basically you got a 6% chance of survival. Then, to take you off of one of the blood thinners, which was going to give you, a lot of pain again, swelling, more pressure behind the eyes. So again, just a series of choices that needed to be made. Thank goodness that you were young. Thank goodness that you were strong. Thank
Mhm.
goodness that you had a drive to be like, my goal is, yes, I need to be able to get out of the hospital. I need to be able to function. But you kept saying all along, I just want to get back on the court and play basketball.
That's right. Yeah, that was my first and only goal. That was just to get back on the court. And yeah, it was a little scary. They kept me in the hospital for so long because they wanted to make sure the blood thinners were working properly and
Yeah.
that they had the right dose. So from the first day, blood thinners, to the last day, and then obviously switched from the blood thinners from the IV fluid to the oral. But
Yeah.
it was a real good thing that we never ended up taking me off, because they don't
Oh,
think that would have worked out very well.
right. Thank goodness.
So yeah,
But again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Everest Romney. You're watching the Coach Scott Field Show. Now a senior at Corner Canyon. This was between his sophomore and junior year in high school, which is less than a year and a half ago. And the trials and tribulations and the physical struggles. The first time that I came to your home, if you remember,
I remember
yeah,
it. It was awesome.
I had just been released, and I had had a reconstructive surgery on my
You did
foot.
on your foot.
Yeah, so I was in a boot and I was hopping on one leg, and there's ample stairs going up to your living room. So I'm hopping on one foot to try to get up to your living room. I get into your living room. Of course, I'm sweating anesthesia myself because I just had surgery. But yet, I remember when your mom said, "Hey, we're going to go get Everest. He's laying in the bedroom. It's kind of dark in there. He's not able to, be on his phone. He's not on his computer." And I remember her walking back. Your dad stayed in the living room with me, and I believe you had a sister, and she was stealing Skittles and M&Ms. It was so cute. So we're in the living room, and your mom was assisting you because you were having trouble with walking, and your focus and vision was still not very well at the time. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember I couldn't see you until I was right up to you. I remember I couldn't even remember your face. It was so
Yeah.
weird. I
Well,
just
that's probably for the good. That's for the good. but but I remember she comes up, and you were kind of holding onto her arm. She was kind of your crutch as you were taking tiny steps, and your head was down. Um, and of course you were walking very slowly, and each step was kind of a challenge for you, and she brought you over. So I moved over to a chair closer to where you could sit in like a love seat where we could be,
That's right.
within 3 or 4 feet of each other. And you
Mhm.
finally sat down, and I remember she kind of placed you down, and you were still dizzy. You sit back, you laid your head over, and you rolled your head towards my side to where you were looking towards me, but not exactly at me because you knew my voice. You heard my
Yeah.
voice. And I remember just kind of putting my hand out and I said, Everest, my name is Coach Scott Fields. I'm just here to introduce myself. And I shared my personal story with you. And we talked for about 10, 12, 14 minutes. And just within that conversation, you were not feeling well. And it was time for you to go lay back down. But I
Yeah.
just remember in those 10 to 12 minutes of us talking, I could tell and I could see the passion that you just wanted to feel better, but yet you were needing help physically just to step and to take small steps because of your balance and coordination. Your equilibrium was off and you had no focus, and your depth perception was very bad at the time.
Yeah, it was. It
Yes.
was
So
awful.
I remember, sitting there talking with you. We had a great conversation. I was thrilled for the opportunity, and I felt blessed that your family trusted in me to come and have a relationship with you to try to help you through these darker days. And I just felt so elated to get to know you, the person, because I saw this wonderful person, highly intelligent young man. You were even frustrated
Thank you.
that, a lot of times you couldn't finish your own sentences at the time and you were trying
Oh,
to find the right words.
yeah, that was awful. That was no fun. I had a huge vocabulary, and it wasn't any fun to not have any more access to it.
Yeah. So I remember making 2 or 3 visits to your home, and I offered to your mother. I said, "Listen, if if Everest ever gets to feeling better, I would love to come pick him up. I'll take him to my home for dinner. We can watch the NBA playoffs. The Jazz were,
That was awesome. I
Rudy
remember.
and them were playing, and we would talk about it. And I would send you a text every once in a while, and we would respond. And I remember after one of those visits, your mom was like, I think it would be great. And I was so excited to come pick you up, bring you to my home. I believe we ordered pizza and we just kind of hung out watching basketball. But I could just tell how driven you were and how important basketball was to you because you really wanted to attain and earn a basketball scholarship to go on and complete your education.
That's right. I really did. And I remember one of the other days we had burritos too. That was fun. Kim made
Yeah.
burritos, and that was awful nice.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, we had great times and great visits, and I look forward to more visits like that with
me
you.
too.
But I also remember you sitting on the couch, and our little bulldog Betty was wanting to play with you, and
That's right.
I mean it was just fun seeing your interaction because I could also tell slowly your motor skills were getting a little bit better.
That's right.
You were able to get from the car and you walked through our garage, up the steps into our living room, and I was seeing progress. So to me, it's like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And then during our visits, I mean, we even broke down the shooting mechanics,
We
and you were
did.
teaching mechanics, and you were sitting there getting proper rotation, and I'm watching your mechanics, and I'm telling my wife, I'm so proud of this young man because, babe, he's so driven. So take us now through the steps. Here we are a year and a half later. You're back on the court, obviously, but how are things now for you when you're on the basketball court? How does it feel to you? Because I remember after 3 or 5 minutes, you would go out. You were basically reteaching yourself how to have motor skills to even shoot and even walk because you couldn't even go jogging at the time.
That's right. Yeah, I do remember a very key moment where just Scott Fields was teaching me how to shoot the basketball again, and that was just wonderful. It was a long road, and a couple times along the way, I lost some form here and there, and I had to fix it again. I remember my shot became straight as an arrow, and I had to get that curve back up into it, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun trying to figure it out. It was real hard, but it was real fun. I finally now a year and a half later, as you say, I think I'm finally around about there. And I'm, like I said, my form, it was wonky sometimes. I had a few ups and downs, but I
Sure.
eventually got it back, and I'm getting quick, and I'm real happy to be a lot more recovered, if not fully recovered now. And
Right.
it's just great. I'm real happy to have my body back, if that
That's
makes sense.
exactly well, and I'm looking at you today. You've put on weight, but when you were going through these trials at 6'9", what did your weight get down to?
In the hospital, my weight dropped to 155 pounds, and I
Wow.
was considered just incredibly skinny. I'd lost pretty much all mass that wasn't necessary to my body. I had lost so much weight. It was horrible. I had lost something in the realm of 25, 30 pounds,
Yeah,
something
and
like
so
that.
that's just in a matter of weeks, correct? I
Yeah, in a
mean,
matter of weeks. That's right.
wow, wow. And so again, I'm thinking of, here's a guy that was at a showcase. He's one of the top players on his team. They're putting out reels for coaches. You get the vaccine. Your dad has an adverse reaction. You also have an adverse reaction. You go through so much testing, so many doctors, so many opinions. Your mom is continuing to fight for you, advocate for you. You're advocating for yourself. Yet you're frustrated because you're like, I can't say what I want to say. I can't find the words. And here you are today, a senior now at Corner Canyon. Put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being perfect, and you're probably harder on yourself. Where would you put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 right now physically?
Physically, I'd say probably around a 7. I think
Wow.
that I had a lot of work. I put a lot of work in over the season. I gained just huge amounts of muscle back, and I was just so thrilled. And I started outperforming myself from even before the blood clots, which was fantastic. Yeah,
Oh,
so I had an awful good season, and then I dropped a little bit of weight, but I'm
yeah.
gaining it back again. It's just the balance, it's
Yep.
just getting the right amount of caloric intake in, and
Right.
it's a lot of fun to get that right, and just to see the weight getting back on, to just see yourself so fit, and it's just
So
fantastic.
So are you doing a bunch of the protein drinks to try to get some muscle mass because you're also trying to get the foot speed, the coordination, the flexibility? How has that process worked for you?
Well, at first it was pretty slow. I remember coming right back to my basketball, and it was just me trying to just eat as much as I could. I was trying to hit the macros, right? I was trying to
Yeah,
hit, what is it, fats and proteins, and
yeah,
the last one I can't even remember now. I've forgotten, but the macros. I
yeah,
would hit the macros real hard. I would eat rice and things like that, and I would work out every day, every other day, sometimes depending. And it was just as much as my body could take. Trying to get back
yeah,
into shape and just training with the ball every day
yeah.
and trying to
Just
get
trying to
that
get the
back.
skills to dribble, to
That's
pass,
right.
to get your
Yeah.
form. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how long did it take you before you were released, before you could have full physical contact again?
So after I was released from the hospital, let's see here, I think it was around the 6 month period, maybe three to 6 months.
Yeah.
It was around that time period. And I was real blessed because the doctors were thinking it was going to be closer to 6 to 9 months, if not even
Oh,
longer, to be on the blood thinners,
yeah.
because we had to get these brain clots, small enough, because you see blood thinners, they thin your blood enough that it can pass through past the blood clot, from what I understand, and it takes little chips off here and there. And eventually those got small enough that I could finally come off them. And I was like, that's awesome. But then I still had diamox from the brain swelling, and that was
Yeah.
awful hard. So in the end, it came around to about 5 months of just, not really being able to
Right.
do a lot.
When did you feel you were slowly starting to get the motor skills back, to get the shooting mechanics back? And how long did it take you to be able to, run, up and down the court to where it satisfied you?
Well, the day that I remember making progress, the very first day, was when I was with you. Actually, Scott, was when I was going through that form, and then I would just throughout that entire week, I would sit there in my chair, because I had a special chair because I couldn't go anywhere, and I would
Right.
practice that form over and over again all throughout the week, and just do the little dribble drills around the chair, and my mom would be like, "Everest, the baby's trying to sleep," and then I would have to stop.
Yeah, because you
But
had a brand new baby born during
that's
this
right, we
whole
did.
process.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah,
So your
yeah.
mom was advocating for you while pregnant, and here she is just
Yeah.
months away from delivery, which had to be added stress for this poor little gal.
Yeah. Yeah. She
Oh
was
my
certainly
goodness.
stressed.
And so what is your sister's names?
So the littlest one, her name is Emmy, and that's a pretty cute name. It's short for Emerald. And then I've got a sister around the age of 4, and her name is Monet. And then I've got a sister 3 years younger than me, and her name is Vienna. She just had an awful, awful time. She was horribly, horribly just so nervous for my life. And I mean, we all were, but especially Vienna. She was very afraid of losing me. She was really attached, and
Yeah.
she was real happy to get me
Well,
back, and I was super pleased.
so let's
Yeah, she
give
tried.
us your dad's name.
So my dad's name is Preston, and he's pretty awesome. He's a real nice guy. You know, he's 6'9". He's not easy to miss.
Is he a former
um,
basketball player?
no, he played a little bit in high school, but
Okay.
he was put in a little too late for that, and he just didn't have enough training.
Right.
Then of
And
course
it's
my
very,
mom.
yes. And so, and give your mom's name.
So my mom's name is Cherie. It's French for darling. So
There you
she's
go.
pretty cute. Yeah.
Perfect. That's right. And of course, very successful family. You guys, have a lot going on. But what is it that Everest, what is your end goal? If you could go to college and choose anything to study, tell the viewers what you hope to study.
So I would love to be an orthodontist. I think that's probably my end goal. I would love to be an orthodontist, or I have an uncle who's a surgeon. He's pretty awesome sometimes. And yeah, I would love to be one of those guys, you know?
Yes, yes. So to take us, what kind of classes are you currently taking, being your senior year? Are you preparing for college? How are you doing on the entrance exams? Those kind of things.
Yeah, so I'm just doing my very best in everything, you know. I'm taking as many classes as I can fit into my schedule. Yeah, I'm taking ACT stuff, trying to get, you know, 34, 33, you know, just I would
Wow.
love to score high on that. And then of course
Yeah.
after that I've got to take the, what is it? I don't even remember the other one, the one that's like 1200 or whatever. I
SAT.
got to score high on that too. SAT, that's right. Yes, I've got
SAT.
to
Yeah.
take that too.
And
Yeah.
your goal is to get a 34 on the
Yeah.
ACT.
That's right.
Oh
34.
my God. And you've got like practically what 395, 398 right now in high
Yeah,
school?
yeah, around there, yeah.
Wow. 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 So again, I mean, I want the recruiters and the basketball people out there who's watching this show, move this guy up on your list because he's high character, he's highly skilled, he's very ambitious. As you can tell, he's driven like nobody that I know. So I mean, idealistically, Everest Romney today, what would be your dream school? Where would you like to play if you
Oh my
could?
goodness, I would love to. I would play anywhere. I would love to
Yep.
play in a place that would give me a scholarship. That would be fantastic. D1, D2, that would be fantastic. I want to play. You know, I
Yep.
want to get out there.
Yes.
It'd just be
Yes.
fantastic to get a scholarship.
And I love and again, with those academics and with those test scores, I'm sure there's going to be academic scholarships that are going to come your way. But yet, an athletic scholarship, I mean, there's ways that they could put a package together for you,
That's right.
and
Mix them.
that's right, and then still be able to bring in great players. Because what I'm going to tell the viewers today, he's an unbelievable family. You've heard the stories. You see the kid. He's high character, gifted and skilled. What do you hope to do in your senior season? Because again, you guys were runners up to state champions in 6A, which is the highest classification in Utah basketball. What are your goals personally for this year?
Well, my personal goal, obviously, I want to get better in everything. I would love to get better at my 3-point shot. It's pretty solid right now, but I'd like to get that a little bit better. And then, of
Wow.
course, team goals. You know, I would love to take state. I think we can take state this year. That would be great. So state in 6A, that's probably the team goal. Yeah,
I love it. You're a team-oriented guy. You're outstanding in the locker room. You get very good grades. You're never in any kind of trouble. You are an asset to an institution, a community, a locker room, a bench. I mean, there's so many check marks that you hit the box. And I want people to know this about you, because the times that I've been able to spend with you, you're just so fun to be around, because you're just a great kid who's very ambitious, and you're very driven, and you heard it. He wants to get into dentistry or orthodontics. And I think it's phenomenal, Everest, that the progress that you have made in this short time. But there for a while, it was pretty scary if you would even be able to play again.
Yeah, it was. I was awful afraid that I wouldn't be able to hop back in the groove, because I thought that there would just be this huge head start that everyone else had because of those months that I was out, and I just worked my butt off really just to try and get back.
Well, obviously, because I mean, you basically had to teach yourself to walk, and you basically
Yeah,
had to work on cognitive skills for memory and recall. And your coach is probably calling out a play, and you're like, where do I go? What does that mean? It's
yeah,
almost like you were in a concussion phase where you just didn't have those synapses firing because you weren't getting the circulation and the blood flow that you needed. And again, you've got swelling, and it's just phenomenal. And I'm elated to see the progress that you've made, and to know how hard you're working on your game, and yet still taking care of everything academically while you're going through these trials and tribulations. And again, a huge credit to your support system and lovely family, and what everybody has done to try to help you.
yeah. Absolutely. I definitely my support system. I mean, Scott Fields, he practically helped me. It was just amazing. I had such a huge support system. I had so many people praying for me, and it was just so
Yes.
kind. And then I had this one girl she's actually now become my girlfriend, but her name is
Oh,
Gracie, and I know, right? Yeah. And
yes.
she helped me get back in, and she would help me train my best. It was just wonderful. She's
Oh,
so wonderful. My family is so wonderful. Of course, Scott, you're so wonderful. I mean,
no.
Scott,
Hey,
you had me over any time that I texted. You're like, yeah, sure, come over, and it was so kind. You would come up, and you would take so much time out of your day to come and spend time with me, and I
come
just
on,
so
man.
much appreciated it.
Hey,
It
hey,
was amazing.
we're planning to go see some movies together. We need to get back on track to do
That's
those
right.
things. I miss you. I miss hanging out with you, but I'm so glad you were able to share a little bit of your story, because the purpose of this is basically just to bring awareness, to let other people know that this could happen. And if it does, there are things you can do to get yourself back on the right path if they know the right questions to ask and the
That's
right
right.
things to do.
That's right. It's real important to be careful. I mean, you just got to be careful. It's okay to get. I mean, don't think that I'm like anti-vaccine. I'm
Right.
totally for the vaccine, right? Like,
Yep.
if I
Yep.
if anyone was asked me, I say first I would say check your antibodies, because that's what got me into trouble. Is I had way too many antibodies. My immune system was just too strong. I was
Yeah.
huge immune system. And it was just, that was troublesome for me. But I would say if your immune system checks out, and if you haven't got the antibodies, I mean, there seems to be no reason not to take it. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
I'm fully for the vaccine. I have no qualms with the vaccine, other than the fact that it's unfortunate. But
You had an unfortunate adverse reaction which challenged you, which that test is now part of Everest Romney's testimony, and you're going to be a success story. You're going to impact lives. Let's do this. We got about 2 minutes.
okay.
Leave the viewers with some parting words of wisdom that you have learned about yourself through this journey.
Well, there was a period in my life where I was afraid that I would still die because, at the point of like the very high percentage, I wasn't aware enough to be worried about it. But after I was out of the hospital, 6 to 12% of patients in recuperation still don't make it through. They still
Wow.
pass away due to, clots dislodging. And in fact, I still have a clot here. Did a bit of a risky move to get back to playing basketball sooner, because I stopped the blood thinners a little early. So this blood clot in my neck is still there. But there was a period of time there where I was awful afraid of leaving my family, and that was a real stressful time. I guess what I should say, what I ought to say is that you just got to trust in yourself that you can make the right decisions. Don't worry about what other people think about your recovery or your recuperations or your problems, because in the end it's all about what you think about yourself, and it's about what is possible for you, right? It's your wins. It's not their wins, it's your wins.
That's right.
So
Yep.
that's probably what I would leave with them is it's just take your wins. Don't set your standards to their standards, because their standards of wins and losses might be different to yours. You take your own standards for wins and losses.
I love it. You're not going to let anyone set limitations on you other than
No,
you. And,
indeed.
and you're going to set your ceiling of what you want your ceiling to be.
Exactly.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Everest Romney, senior, Corner Canyon High School. Coaches, start recruiting this young man. Get him on your radar. He's going to work harder than anybody else you have. High character, great family, tremendous person, tremendous athlete, hard worker. I'm blessed and I'm a better person and I'm a better me because I'm around people like you, Everest. Thank you so much for your time and being a guest on the show today. Let's get together soon and let's you, my wife, and Gracie, we go out and go see a movie and dinner.
I would love that. Thank you so much, Scott.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for watching another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. Stay tuned for another outstanding guest where there's big shoes to fill after Everest Romney has shared this empowering and inspiring story, impacting lives in ways that we hope are immeasurable. So God bless you, Everest. Can't wait to see you soon, brother.
God bless you too. Thank you.